Welcome to the Almost Perfect Podcast, a celebration of fuck-ups, failures, and falling flat on your face. This is a podcast that believes you can learn from experience, but that experience doesn't have to be your own. Hi, I'm Bob Perfect, and I'm a functional fuck-up. Let's learn from somebody else's mistakes. And today we are learning from Aaron Peters. Now, Aaron is a cultural curator, which is a fancy way of saying he does a whole lot of different shit. He's someone who I know from back in the day when he used to manage and book bands, and he worked with Black Major for a while, handling all of that. But these days he has a record store called The Other Records. He's one of the people behind The Other Radio, which you might know if you've been a long-time listener of this podcast. I had a show on there for a while. They're on hiatus at the moment, but very dope projects, which we obviously chat a bit about. And he's also the guy who books the lineup for the Search Festival, as well as many other gigs in Cape Town, including contributing towards One Park's listening bar and their sessions over the weekend. So yeah, he's someone who's been super influential in the Cape Town scene, and that has spread further out. Because yeah, man, he's someone who I dig, man. I think he's a bit of a kindred spirit. Like, we're both passionate about music. We're both passionate about exposing people to, artists they may not know. And we both have tried to figure out the financial aspects of doing all of that with some mixed results, as you will hear in just a little bit. And I guess this is probably a good time for me to mention that this podcast is brought to you by you, which means you can support it by going to patreon.com/almostperfect. And you can sign up to one of the 3 tiers there, or you can just go to almostperfect.co.za. You can buy some merch. You can buy a t-shirt, a sweater, a mug, or you can if you just want to throw me some cash, there's a little Zapper code there that you can scan. And yeah, you can chuck me $10, $20. It all fucking helps. Because as you will hear in this podcast, financial stability in the creative industry is not an easy thing to achieve. So, help you, help me. How about that? Or help me, help you, help me. Something like that. Fuck it. I have no idea where I'm going with that. Yeah, so what I'm gonna tell you just before we get into this podcast. This week's been pretty dope. We did, obviously, the Not Quite Right open mic on Wednesday. I had a pretty decent set to close the show. And, I've been working. Like, I've been writing every day. Not really writing so much as just rewriting. Like, just really working on word order, really working on, different punchlines, different ideas, like expanding, like, jokes that haven't been working, basically, or haven't been going as well as I would like. That I think there's some core ideas that I really want to explore within them. I've been, building them out. Instead of just being like, oh, the crowd doesn't fucking get me. I'm like, well, how the fuck do I get the crowd to get this? And yeah, that's been dope because I think it's paying off, or it's going to at least pay off in the long run. Because yeah, Wednesday went quite well. Telling some pretty strange fucking jokes about Pretoria's perennial puss, Elon Musk. I've got a whole, fuck me, dude, like, there's too many, like, I've actually got, like, I could probably at this point do a one-man show just on Elon Musk, because, fuck, there's just a new headline every fucking day. One of the things I do say on stage is that, yeah, he's the richest man in the world, and we live in the attention economy, so, of course, there's gonna be some new fucking shit about him every goddamn day. But yeah, that's some of the stuff we've been working on. Seems to be going well. Seems this year is off to a fairly decent start. Like, I've just been trying to keep my head down and focusing on the things I really want, and yeah, to be a relatively successful comedian and podcaster are those things. So that's why so far we've had 3 interviews in a row, hey, each week. Yo, 2024, Bob. It's killing 2023, Bob. And we've got a few more lined up over the next few weeks. Hopefully we keep this pace up. I'm no longer focusing on the creating content for fucking Instagram shit, the cutting it up and doing the text and stuff, because that shit actually takes just too much time, and I don't think it actually really increases the listenership of this podcast or the Instagram following or anything like that. So I'm out. I'm over it. I'm just gonna do the simple thing of recording the podcast, editing the podcast, and then putting the podcast out. And hopefully, as time goes on, that'll be enough. Although that is enough with the jibber jabber for now. I'll catch up with you at the end of the podcast. I'll check in with you there. For now, though, it's time for the Almost Perfect Podcast with Aaron Peters. So, how are you living, Aaron?
I'm living really good, Bob. Yeah, all things considered, I'm actually feeling the best personally that I have in quite a while. It's been one of the best starts to the years, post search and into events and a bit of nature. So right now on what is it, the 24th of Jan when we're recording, I'm feeling awesome.
Yeah, we might feel a little different by Friday when this comes out.
Maybe.
Cool. So, I guess we can just start off with Search, which you mentioned there. That's a dope New Year's festival that you and a couple of other cats put on. How'd it go this year?
It was my personal favorite. We've been doing this event. This is the 9th one. We started quite a few years ago with just 26 of us, and I'd been booking the lineup since then. So seen the festival go through many changes. And there were moments at this year's Search and last year's Search, this year and last year, I guess, when I couldn't believe that this was our festival. I was so proud of what the team had put together, how the artists were playing, just the morale around everything, how we dealt with the rain. Because I think that was a really big factor in this year's festival. And it's been the case with a lot of festivals for some reason in Cape Town this year, but we had torrential rainpour on the first night. And building up to the start of the festival, we watched the ticket sales go up as they normally do, and classic Cape Town, or I guess the African style, people buy pretty last minute, as you know, which is extremely stressful when you're running an event on that scale, completely out of your own pocket or based on ticket sales. And so we watched the ticket sales go up and up and up, and then the weather report came out and people started getting, freaked out about the event being cancelled, I guess, or, not being able to enjoy the festival how they want to, and people started selling tickets, and we just saw the ticket sales just go down and down and down. So I think initially, like before the festival started,
Capetonians need to harden the fuck up, man.
Yo, come on. Like, one of my best parties I've been to is like in the English Midlands. During rain, there was a puddle in my tent. The wind was so strong that I saw tents flying in the sky. I was with my best friend Matt, who I work with a lot from One Park as well. And the two of us were just like, Matt Hitchens, shout out to Matt, Chocolate Sinclair, my homie.
Not everyone's from Cape Town. I knew
sure. One Park is, anyway, we can get into that. But yeah, shout out to Matt. So me and Matt, anyway, we've been in situations, Glastonbury, places that have a lot of mud and a lot of rain. And we just, I was so excited. I was like, cool, we've prepped for the weather. We would have anyway
for the stage and
for the stages. I mean, as much as we could, right?
Yeah.
And building up when we saw that the weather was going to be, that the rain was going to be really intense, we obviously got the build team up into 5th gear and did everything that we could. Put out communication saying that there's going to be rain. Like, get some Wellington boots, get your raincoats, get some umbrellas, and a lot of people obviously. Well, not obviously, a lot of people didn't come who had bought tickets, and a lot of people didn't come who were put off by the rain. So the people that came, they knew what was up. They knew that, we're going to have a bit of rain. I've got my umbrella. I've got my raincoat. And it honestly turned into one of the most insane parties that night. Like watching Jumping Backslash at 3:30 in the morning to a crowd of people just raving it out in the pouring rain with that kind of music on like a sound system that there was the biggest sound system we got. I think we had like 8 subs and like 8, like it was crazy. It was pretty full on. It was overkill for what we needed. But for JBS, I mean, to listen to Garrett's music.
You want that.
On a system. It's the first time I've ever listened to it on a system like that. And like clocking around, seeing people that have been following. Anyway, that moment was one of the best I've experienced. There's amazing photos that
there's video too.
There's video too. Garrett took
some of it, yeah.
And I think that, you know, the people that came on that first night, there was no half doing it. The rain was coming down so heavy that you were going to get wet, and you're either going to stand around and idly dance or get stuck in.
And you can't go back to your tent or anything like that because, it's going to be drenched.
Yeah, look, I mean, some people's tents unfortunately got some water in, but most people that I chatted to, their tents were fine. And we had a lot of undercover areas, like the food court had a massive stretch tent. So a lot of people were just chilling underneath there. We had people like kind of sleeping underneath where we put a cinema, which was shaded. But I guess that kind of environment really forced people to just, you know, go in, and people really did, and it was amazing to see, you know, that kind of energy because it wasn't cold, it was just raining. I mean, you're from Durban, you know, you used to Splashy Fen, and you know, having
that's what I was
rain
gonna say. Like Splashy's cold, it's like kind of miserable. But to be honest with you, like as much as like, you know, I've enjoyed the sunshine and like chilling by the river and all of that, my best memories of Splashy Fen, of, you know, Smoking Dragon, of like a few different festivals is the, you know, torrential downpours, and you're just stuck watching the bands, watching the music, you know, like everyone's in the beer tent, like it just becomes more communal almost because of the circumstances. And like I mean, obviously, like I love, like we were chatting a little bit beforehand, like something like Mealy Pop, and I know they get hurt hard when it rains and that, but like when it's not raining there, holy fuck, it's the most beautiful festival in the country. But there is just something about gritting through, you know, the hardship. But I guess for myself, as I get older, I don't really want that as much. Like it really, depends on the lineup. Like it really depends on the lineup.
I get it. But, I mean, Splashy Fen. Sorry.
Well, yeah. Speaking of Splashy, that's the thing. Like, I'm never going back to Splashy Fen because their booking philosophy is shit in my mind. I mean, I know you have to maintain friendships with other people in the industry. So,
kind of. I mean, look, Splashy Fen. We kind of. I don't know if they're the most happy. Well, they probably don't remember now. But the last time I was there was when I was tour managing Badalier and The Frown and Christian Tiger School, and we rocked up. We were on like a road tour, and we rocked up, and it like. There was no way that we could set our tents up in the artist area. It was completely, there was a big puddle. We're like, what do we do? I think it was Anthony at the time, Bumstead. He was just like, yeah, listen, like, you're going to have to camp here. And we broke into the tent, like after he had left, to sleep under one of the marquees in the main area. They came and found us, and we're kind of like communal vibes. They were like all the bands, all this chilling. Security came in with Anthony. They're like, what are you guys doing? We're like, oh, where are we supposed to fucking sleep? You know, like we rocked up, we performed, there's no space here. But yeah, I think with the weather, it turned from the first day. The clouds kind of cleared, and it got warmer and warmer until the last day, where it was like one of the most beautiful nights. So a lot of people who came on the first night saw the whole journey. A lot of people arrived on the 31st to kind of miss the first night of heavy rain. And it was amazing kind of progression from pretty intense weather into like a perfect sunny day.
It's quite metaphorical considering it's over New Year's and stuff.
Completely. Like the thing is, it's weird for us. We started Search not because we like care about New Year's Eve at all. It's a time where a lot of us are off and have holiday. And to be honest, a lot of the New Year's parties in the city are awful and very expensive, and commissioning around the city at night is really tough.
We have the same thing here.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably standard globally. So for us, like, we never really cared about the countdown and resolution, all of this. A lot of people do, though, who come. So now we've had to make it a bit of a thing. But I guess for me, it's weird because New Year's for all of us, as I said, it's not super important, but Search is to me. So Search has always been quite a self-reflecting time. I'm around a lot of my close friends generally. In nature, I'm like because I booked the lineup, I'm like hearing my favorite music, like my ideal party every year, which is like sometimes I have collaborated with other people, but yeah, it's a really important time, and I had one of the reasons why it was really important to me is that I had a really great kind of moment with myself this year search, just kind of getting into my head a bit and reframing.
Were mushrooms
kind of,
involved at all?
yeah, probably.
I mean, for
Shout
me,
out to
like, I
Nonku.
love
Shout out
that.
to Nonku.
Oh, fuck, I was Miss Perry, I'm assuming, because I want to get her on this fucking podcast, and like, I'm not getting through, but everyone just tell her, like, please come on this podcast.
Hey, listen, finding Nonku and getting hold of her, we can both try. We'll see when it happens. She kind of pops up into my life in a very mysterious way, makes some extremely impactful like conversation or moment or memory or lesson, and then disappears. So if I do see her walking around the streets of Cape Town or another part of the world, I will give a nudge.
Please. But yeah, because I know for myself, like, that's one of the dope things like about music festivals, and that is, both access to drugs, and then also a lot of the time it's a dope fucking setting. And something like mushrooms, acid, even something like 2CB or whatever, like, really does just like open you up and like remind you of like, your place in the world, your significance and insignificance and all of that. Yeah. And yeah, like for me, music festivals are like the perfect space for it, especially ones that, you've put on and everything's running smoothly.
Yeah. I think it's quite a psychedelic festival, and I mean, as organizers, that definitely doesn't, like, we keep it pretty sober for, there's a lot of people there. Yeah, exactly. Generally it's, the kind of last ends of the festival, we can loosen up a bit. But yeah, I think for me to have that moment that reminded me of, why I'm involved in the festival, and seeing people having a good time and having a kind of check in with myself was really awesome for that to happen at Search with an amazing soundtrack.
Well, speaking of which, I wanted to get into your booking philosophy, because like Search's lineup is amazing if you're someone who's like in touch with, what's good. But in general, that doesn't seem to necessarily be a thing, like you look at a lot of current media, you look at a lot of Instagram and, just everywhere around, like, a lot of dope shit's just not getting the space to shine. And so a lot of people don't necessarily know about like this really cool underground stuff. So there's obviously got to be a bit of a balance between what you love and what other people love, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is. I think it's interesting because Search was never meant to be what it is now. It never started off as a business. I mean, how it started was literally Louis, who's the kind of main organizer who came up with the idea. Shout out to Louis. He was in a band called Batelier, who I was managing at the time. And because of my work in music and him, he was just like, yo, Aaron, come through. Let's throw a party. Do you want to put the lineup together? And every year that it's grown, it was just friends of ours that are coming, and friends largely in kind of creative and music spaces, booking people that I thought were, really awesome, that I was lucky enough to work with, because I was at Black Major for a while managing artists. So being able to book people like Aaron Maniello and DJ Spoko, rest in peace. Yeah. And a couple of other like heavy hitters who were keen to come and, play at Aaron's festival that he works at. So the lineup had always been like bigger than what it should have been for the scale of the party. But people, we never really pushed. It was never a headliner focused festival. The lineup was kind of like just part of the puzzle of what people were coming to, which was experiencing a festival that was largely created by volunteers and friends putting on something, that they thought was one of the, best experiences that people could have going into the new year. As it grew, then I had to be a little bit conscious of what the crowds would have liked, because obviously, we went from 25 to I think 150 to around 300, 400. Then it went to 1,000. We took a year off, went back to 600. Then we went to 1,015, and then this one, there was, I don't know what the total numbers were, over 1,000. So it's like changed in numbers and in crowd, but the one that went to 900, there was quite a big jump. There were a lot of people that came that we didn't know. Some people were asking for sidetrons, clearly didn't understand like what kind of like music we're putting on.
Like, there's enough Psytrance festivals in
exactly.
fucking Cape
Come on.
Town. Like,
yeah. And I guess
go dance in the forest somewhere else, man.
yeah. But Bob, there's no real. I don't really have like. It goes the same with the events I do in the city, or I guess the radio as well. Like, there's no real formula that I use to book the lineup. I think that I just have a keen interest and desire to like blend different music worlds and scenes together. I think that it's like weird that a metalhead and a techno head and like a free jazz head aren't in the same room together, because the style of music,
there's similarities there. Yeah,
there's so much crossover between genres of music. Like, I just in it, like, I've been lucky enough that I've been open to listen to music widely. I've been like, always, and there's a lot of people in the city that I've seen that as well, going to the rock show and to the jazz show and to the techno show, and seeing someone like Tyler from Black Mouth at all of these shows and being like, yo, this guy, like, there's, it does
they
make
were
sense.
Exactly who I was thinking of when you mentioned that. I was literally thinking of them.
So a festival is a great opportunity to be able to try and do that, because people are bouncing around different stages. The programming, if you can flow it in a way that makes sense to put on the ultimate experience of someone going through a day and experiencing loads of different sounds. I think we have 3 stages now, so there's more room to, and it will probably hopefully grow. There's more room to be able to get that right. And I think festivals are always a space for musical discovery. I can remember experiencing that properly. Stayed in London straight after school. I went to London to go, and it was the last year that you could get that 2-year working holiday visa. So
I know a lot of people utilize that.
Yeah, a lot of people utilized, and I was still living there 22 years later. But I went to as many like events and festivals as I could, and kind of blindly in like a whole new continent just discovered music. A lot of styles that I hadn't heard for the first time. I was like, oh, this is so incredible.
Did you go to like the underground and stuff like that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was lucky enough. I was kind of in like a lot of different scenes. My partner at the time was involved in the kind of the West London folk scene. So I was going to like a lot of stripped back kind of shows. I was working in a venue called Coco. So that's a music venue in Camden. So I was seeing loads of bands there. But honestly, it was also just
Camden
like outside
of pumping, right?
Yeah, that was like 2008 to 9. It was kind of the height of like the kind of, not the height, but it was big in the indie era.
Yeah, a lot of bar shows and stuff.
The horrors playing in like, I don't know, like the H&M on the main street and shit. It was a fun time to be there, but also a lot of amazing electronic music, a lot of amazing live music. Being there completely kind of really excited me about festivals, because my experience before that was the Jazz Festival, which was incredible. Like
you're lucky to have that.
Yeah, my uncle who came into my family, who was seeing my aunt for a while. He's the organizer, and we clocked over music, and he asked me to come in and kind of just like work on some odd jobs when I think I was about 15, and it was quite a funny. Sorry, I know I'm sidewinding a bit, but this kind of
go for it.
I was kind of the job that he gave me was to get the track listing from the artists for Samro directly after their shows. So it was one of the easiest jobs. I kind of had to hang backstage, watch some of the most insane artists I've ever seen in my life at 15 years old, and then have to go up to them and speak to them and like get the track list. That was great for quite a few.
That's a good foundation.
That was a good foundation, yo. I was like, what? And I think he kind of put me at stages that he thought I would like, because I wasn't based at one space. So I was able to move around a bit. Or my cousin's also one of the bookers there. Anyway, thanks to them, I was able to like see a lot of these amazing acts, from hip hop acts to like serious, heavy, like Wayne Shorter jazz artists. Got the track list, and some of them were really cool. They were like, yo, what's up? What do you do? With your music, did you like my solo? Whatever, like, here's the track list. Other people like really came at me. They're just like, why would you come to me with this kind of information straight after the set? Like, I've just like poured my heart out and you're asking me about publishing details. So learned, like, I don't know, a couple of like lessons there on
etiquette.
I don't know, etiquette, which helped a lot because ended up working with artists afterwards. And I guess that certain artists in a certain space, like, I completely get it. One of the bands, like, listening to them afterwards have been like, of course, they like, we go into a complete trance when they're playing. They definitely don't want to talk business straight afterwards. I don't know what they're going to get up to, but it's definitely not going to be that.
It's good to like, have a manager to handle those things. So if you are a band,
exactly.
like,
But yeah, so I think I was bringing that up because that was I guess one of my earliest festival experiences was that, which was awesome. And then I guess like Rockin' the Daisies. So I didn't really have much before I'd gone over. And when I came back from London, Search started like a couple of years after that. So I think it was just it was a fun thing that was able to grow into something serious that we now have loads of people working for, some that are on a payroll. And I'm booking some of the, like, my favorite artists. It's a dream, really. I can't believe that I'm so fortunate that I'm able to carry on working on this with friends and people are coming to it. And there's a lot of pressure. I mean, I largely book it by myself, and I'm definitely planning to bring on other people in the future. I mean, I'm 34 years old. I try and keep in touch with as much music, and I go out a lot. Yeah, I think when it comes to like diversifying lineups or finding more underground, just like go out. Like, there's so much in Cape Town. There's so much online that you can see.
Yeah.
Like, it's really not hard. We live in one of the most musically rich countries on the planet. There's like, there's so much incredible artists coming out like all the fucking time. To say that you don't know who to book or you're booking the same people, you're actually just being lazy. Like, there's no excuse for not having incredible artists on a South African festival in South Africa.
I mean, there are the commercial aspects to it. Like, the reason why you see Good Luck and Majosi, and that's like, no shade to Majosi, love them, but like, Short Straw, all these bands are always on the same fucking lineups. And it's because, like, the audience that they want to attend those things, because, they're the kind of people who will pay 200 Rand for a ticket or whatever to see those acts and, and have a good afternoon out and everything. For them, it's almost too risky in their minds to put on half the acts that you want to put on, which, like, you used to have, like, with Oppie Copy. I mean, Rockin' the Daisies, their lineups are generally pretty good these days, but still can miss some things. But there used to be much more emphasis in the festival scene on that, on putting people onto new music, putting people like giving them different
I mean,
vibes.
Christian Tiger School and Battleer, I booked them at Rockin' the Daisies. That was the first festival that I booked him, like, early on in their career. They were like experimental and up and coming artists at the major festivals. And it seems like to me, like most of the lineups I'm seeing from special festivals recently, the lineups look the exact, like the headline is all the exact same from 10 years ago. And I'm like, there's younger people going to this festival. They haven't had the same, they don't have the same music taste like what these bands are playing, but also they don't know who these bands are. So are people coming because of who's playing, or are they just going because of the festival? But yeah, it's been really wild to see, especially in the live space, how many artists are being repeated who are completely like, not, I wouldn't say irrelevant. They just haven't been putting out new music. They haven't been building, they haven't been playing. They're like getting booked at these festivals and then like bunkering down into their jobs. Like, it's cool to like, I think sprinkle that out. Like, obviously it's awesome to have nostalgic acts. And like some of the bands are obviously like, they're still really good and they can perform a great show. But
yeah, Desmond and the Tutus are an amazing live act. Like, I've booked them before in that, and like they're consistent. But for me personally, I don't know if I want to watch them again.
I think that there's
they're dope dudes, but
So booking some bigger acts and bringing a lot of new artists in, like, that's the opportunity you have at a festival. Like Kajanga, who played at Search, that was their first festival gig, and it was obviously,
I saw them here in Durban.
Oh
they're
man,
amazing.
They're like hands down one of my favorite bands in the country. Just like,
they're easily one of the best at the moment. Like,
their live show's insane. They're gonna blow up overseas like so soon.
Oh, definitely.
And that was I mean, they've obviously been killing it all over the city in like various spaces but this was the largest event they played. And it was incredible to see like a lot of people who I knew didn't know them, who had probably watched Jumping Backslash before and were now watching Kajenga. And that's what I was that's what I kind of try and do.
Oh wait,
I guess.
Was that at 4 a.m?
No. This was the next day. But they were the same person. There were a couple of people that I saw watching JBS and coming to Kajenga for the first time and like coming up to me like, who the hell is this band? And yeah, I don't know. I hope that I'm like, I get so scared every year that I'm like, haven't delivered, and sometimes I don't. Like sometimes I do get it awfully wrong and have booked the wrong person in the wrong slot, or I've just booked like that happens the most. There. I think booking the people in the wrong slot. I mean, that happened at this year's festival as well, and it's really shitty because like it's not. I feel awful. The artist is not happy sometimes, but yeah, this year the kind of feedback that I had, and we put out a feedback form, which I really encourage anyone who's listening, if you've come to the festival and you have thoughts, please like give us your thoughts. It really helps. And we had some of that from the last year, which wasn't one of our best ones. In fact, it was probably the one that we're not the most proud of. So we worked extremely hard to fix a lot of the areas that we had control of. And on the music side, I listened to a lot of feedback because during the festival, I kind of walk around a lot and chat to people about their feedback. Normally it's friends of mine, so I guess that they're being a little bit biased. But the feedback form really helped because it was completely anonymous. And one of the biggest takeaways was that people wanted variety they wanted more variety in the festival. Because the people come to search not because they're into music necessarily. A lot of people use that as their newest tradition. They don't want to be in the city. It's a beautiful space where we normally put the event on. And they're just coming out. Music is something that they kind of discover, or they might know some of the artists. So the difference between like, I don't know, an artist like Rose Barnaker and Biodive, Terence Pierce, who were playing at the same time. For someone who's into electronic music,
that was Terence's new name.
Biodive, it's his new.
He's been around forever.
He's been around. Pop star. He's been pop star with Yannick.
Yeah, what's he playing these days?
Biodive.
He used to be a bit of a housey
cat. He's still Biodive's like really uplifting kind of euphoric breaks in the house. It's awesome. And Rose Barnaker and Biodive were playing at the same time, and I thought that at the moment I was like, to someone who's into electronic music, they're going to sound quite different. But if you're not, it's dance. It's club music. It could be the same to you. So largely what I wanted to do at this year's festival was at any moment you had something, not completely the opposite, but a big variety, which I guess that's what a lot of festivals, I guess, aim to do if they have more stages. And this year we were fortunate enough to have a live stage, which is something that we was largely missing last year. So bringing in the live aspect, I think.
I mean, that does bring up your costs quite a bit.
Completely. We had a really good deal with the sound company that we worked on, and I think Spurch is corporate. Like we sponsor free, so I think that there's a lot of buy-in that we are fortunate enough to have with everyone who's involved, including some of the artists. And we know, like, we're so lucky to have the artists perform at such, because artists could be making, lots of money on at a corporate gig over New Year's Eve, but are still coming back and wanting to play at the festival. And I think it's, largely because of the vibe feels different when you don't have banners in your face and activations everywhere and a music policy that like don't really have anyone pushing me apart, like telling me what to and how to book. And I'm lucky that I have the trust in the team to do that, and people and feedback. And like, throughout the year, I guess that I chat ideas with everyone in the radio and other DJs. So I mean, during the year, I'm kind of plotting and planning on building the lineup.
Cool. Well, we can get into all the other stuff, like the radio, like management, like all of that in a bit. But like one of the things I want to kind of talk about is the Cape Town scene at the moment, because it felt like, it was pumping in the 2000s, a bit in the 2010s, but then it really started to die out. And now there seems to be a revival. Am I right in thinking that?
So I think there's certain parts of the Cape Town scene that died out, but Cape Town, I think, we've always been a city that has been extremely creative, and people starting, their own independent projects and recording EPs for audiences that didn't really exist. We had like a massive decline in live music venues.
Yeah.
I started out in the live space. I mean, Battalier were the most live, like 7-piece instrumental band.
Yeah, I booked them once at the Winston, I remember.
Yeah, I was there. That's where I think we probably met for the first time.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and they, working with them was such a cool experience. Getting into the live space, meeting all the other bands, and was still working with them when I think the rise of like more electronic music started happening around the city.
Which happened nationwide. Like,
happened
we had
nationwide,
that as well, and I think
Okay.
it's a lot to do with costs as well.
Yeah,
Like, you saw a lot of people in bands, like, starting, like, electronic projects with just 1 or 2 people, because
exactly.
being able to feed 5 people, on
Yeah.
a 500 rand door split
Yeah.
is not easy.
Yeah, I mean, we experienced that so much, I guess, with 7 people, Battalier, or 6. But we, that happened with Nick Fever Trails, who's ex-Olympic now. Like, he kind of made the
Yeah.
progression from Battalier into Fever Trails, which was a 3-piece. And Christian Tiger School, like, they started coming. That's when I started working with them. Kind of got it into we had a massive beat scene, inspired by the LA beat scene. So loads of these hybrid electronic producing, like live and electronic acts started popping up. I've like lost my shit for that. I loved it so much. It was such an interesting blend of sounds that I hadn't heard, like fell like deep in with the sounds of Flying Lotus and Mind Design, and like the combination of jazz and electronic and house and techno and like all these things coming together. So I think that had a big impact on the city, which slowly, like the artists and musicians, like Seb was studying jazz, Nick was studying jazz, I was studying jazz as well. Like, we all came from musical backgrounds, but got pretty swept up into the more experimental electronic sound. At the same time that, like, Purple Turtle was closing and Zula Bar was closing, and Assembly was kind of the last.
Oh yeah, Zula was great.
Yeah, Zula was amazing. I mean, I've had some of the best nights.
Saw a ton of waves there.
Yeah. Makeovers there. Like, yeah, I've seen amazing nights.
Nice.
Yeah, we did one of the Battalier launches there, and it was packed, and we could make cash. Like, we really did. For a band that was doing this on the side, I was managing them, getting 10% or 15%, whatever it was, and like making a bit of pocket change from, booking them around the city. Like, there was times when, you could sell 1,000 tickets at the Assembly, like which happened on the Christian Tiger School launch. Like, we made, like, some nights we made cash. It was amazing. And this was 2011. Acts were making way more than what bands are making now. And we're in 2024, which is crazy, because I mean, these were artists that were quite experimental, without a label and without like sponsors or anything. So the decline started happening with all these venues starting to close, and seeing tastes change, and house and techno kind of really coming up in popularity.
Although every band became a psych band.
Yeah, psych became massive. And I guess the Endless Days, like when Endless Days started, that was kind of like a bit of almost like the one like oasis of live music that was around in Cape Town for a while, because there were obviously, there were like smaller events happening, but after the festival closed, after Assembly closed, I think that a lot of bands were honestly felt like they were forming and playing in the garages to one day hopefully play at Endless Days. And it showed how important a festival could be, because for a lot of people, that was, I know lots of my friends who went, they were like, yeah, I got to Endless Days because that's like literally my snapshot of like bands in Cape Town.
But the funny thing was that, like you're saying, it was bands that were like, they would record an EP and it would be dope, but you would like literally never get to see them play other than like at Endless Days or like a side night or something.
Yeah. So I think, look, that scene is still going. I mean, there are events in the psych spaces that are still sticking through, and I
think the scene's evolved quite nicely though, because it was quite boring to me, like for a while. But nowadays, it's very exciting.
Me too. But I think that there's been some cool new bands that have been popping up that I've been enjoying seeing. But I think that we're in a space. So anyway, that stopped, and then I was still working in I guess more of a live. Cause I guess maybe my window into this is also largely on my personal experience, because obviously loads of live bands and
Well, yeah.
a scene that have been happening in the city. But I guess because of work in music, I'm kind of maybe, I guess it's a good window into like what I could make money on,
Yeah.
and we're like what that meant for the scene. And yeah, electronic music just was massive for a long time. And I think around like 2015, 2016, Christian Tiger School started going from more experimental music into kind of more like house and techno influenced. And that's when I saw a change of like, shit, like young people are into this music, which I always thought you had to be quite a keen listener to get it. And I was lucky that like my cousins were into house and techno. So I'd been like listening to stuff from them when I was younger, but I always felt like it was music that you like were a proper music fan to enjoy and go out to and go clubbing.
That's so funny because in Durban, house music's just the standard. Like everyone listens to house music. Like it's like it's the one genre that like, yeah, if you put it on in Durban, like everyone kind of is like, vibes, I know this.
Yeah, I mean now that's kind of become the vibe in Cape Town. That yeah, it's huge. I mean, modulars, like everyone goes there after 2 a.m. once everything closes.
I go to the Shack. Fuck
you
that.
go to the Shack, okay? Not let's say not everyone, but I mean it's huge. They make so much money. There's a massive crowd, and like largely quite experimental music at times.
But in general, even the electronic venues don't seem to be pumping there. Like, you know, like there was like a death of like a lot of venues for a while.
Mm.
Like to me, and then like obviously there's now stuff like One Park and that like are offering a different experience.
Yeah. So I think that was the vibe, I guess, before COVID, and then COVID hit, and the first new space where I saw like a keen interest in experimentation was thanks to Ghost Greg, who opened up this space that the other radio was lucky enough to share a rooftop with in an amazing location in Loop Street.
Okay, so what is the other radio quickly, and then we can carry on.
Okay, so the other radio it started off as a radio show with me and Fijos, who I started the other with, and with Matt, who I mentioned earlier, my oldest friend, who've been able to lucky enough to still remain best friends with, and be able to work on all these projects with. We started the radio show because we were invited to actually talk about Swim on a friend of mine's radio show called Welcome to the Underground.
Okay, you're just mentioning so many things now. What was Swim?
Swim was a party that Matt and I had started because we were tired of the music that was being played at parties in Cape Town, so we just wanted to throw our own. And we did it every second Wednesday at Julep, not knowing how to DJ, renting a sound system that was way too big for the space.
And probably way too expensive.
Way too expensive. Like the sound system took up half the venue. It was cool. I like big speakers. And we threw a party that was kind of a very open musically, but it was dance floor focused. So we'd have quite a wide variety of DJs playing there, and we did that for 7 years. And we got invited to talk about that on this radio show that a friend of mine, Guido, runs, who's also involved in Search. And he was just interested in, what it is that we do. And I think we talked about Search a little bit. And during that radio show, I was just like, man, this is such an amazing way to talk about our city and to learn from each other, and for them to understand like what we've done, how we could potentially collaborate. And, once talking about it in that kind of room afterwards, we just ended up talking about projects and stuff. And I was like, imagine this had to happen with loads of different people in the city. This is like shortly after I think I'd listened to NTS for the first time, and then discovered Dub Lab in LA, and was like, wow.
And these are all online radio stations.
Online radio stations, yeah, that are free form radio. So it's the first time that when I listened to NTS and listened to Dub Lab, playing what you want on radio was like new to me. My experience with radio was obviously South African FM radio. So hearing like my favorite songs on radio and hearing people talking about a party that's coming up in LA and having an interview with one of the artists and talking about like this new label that had just been launched, I was like, this is so fucking cool. Like, wow. So when we had this radio show with them, I kind of felt like that. And I said to the guys afterwards, I was like, guys, we work in music. We've got all these people that we've connecting with. What if we do a similar thing and call it the other radio show? We cook dinner and we invite a guest and play music with them and chat about who they are. So in a way, it was a podcast. In fact, it was a podcast. I mean, that's what it was. We called it a radio show, but the intention was always that it was going to become a radio, like online radio station. So I think, starting it off as the radio just put the pressure on. And I think we did about 20 episodes where we started off initially, and this is, I need to get my dates right with all the things, but I think this is about 2017, 2018. Inviting guests on and cooking them dinner and talking about music, and then we just put that up on a Mixcloud. And then when COVID started, we had a record shop that we had launched as well. Obviously, couldn't sell records. Me and Jihan, I got on a call with him. I was like, we have some time.
So the other records, what's the record?
The other records is a record. Yeah, it's a physical record shop that we sell vinyl records. And so when the only thing that was kind of, events were obviously out the window and the record shop had closed, we had time, as everyone did, and called Johan up and I was like, listen, I think now's the time to action the other radio. The reason why we had put it off, we had essentially done the whole kind of plan and strategy of how the radio was going to operate and what we needed to happen, and quickly realized how much time it took. We're like, there's no way that we're going to be able to do this. And money, completely. The money side, we didn't. I mean, it's a classic Aaron thing. I don't think of the money first, which I need to get better at, because I end up doing projects for a long time and then realize, oh, this is quite difficult to sustain.
Oh, but trust me, I know the vibe.
Because I'm glad in a way, because I think that the reason why I do this is for reasons that I'm glad is not influenced by money, but obviously money is important. And I am more conscious of that before anything I do now, because it's been difficult. And anyway, we'll get into that. But the radio side, once we had some time, that allowed us to really dig into launching the radio. We grew quickly from like 5 to, I think, 40 guests in the space of a month. I just reached out everyone that I had a really good relationship with and that I knew had, well, not everyone, but a lot of people that I had a good relationship with and that I knew had great taste in music. Started doing just uploads to a Mixcloud and had an Instagram page, and then went on to building a website, finding a physical studio at Ghost, and then launching the live radio. Which we did like 5 days a week from 9 a.m. until sometimes like 10 p.m. It was stupid. We did too much work, but it was beautiful. It was amazing. It was a great space to be around COVID and to the tail end of COVID. Obviously, I was like pretty heavy on lockdown myself. I wasn't really going out, but the other radio, was in a big open space. It was kind of a secret space. Like if you found out about it, you could come. And once the things had eased, we were essentially like involved in a space that was running events every weekend. From like Greg just had this idea to start. He was actually supposed to be a weed club, but then when the radio station came in, there were a lot of people coming for the radio instead of for weed. It just became a space that we collaborated on. I mean, we're still weed friendly, but had this addition of a radio station that people were coming to produce and record and broadcast live from the studio. And then Greg, who's doesn't come from a music background at all, which is amazing because he had such a fresh approach to what a space could be. It just became this blank canvas for exhibitions and film screenings and live performances. Club Value were kind of like the house band. I don't know if you know them, but like really dope two-piece band from Joburg. They were like performing in the courtyard and out in the front and like just like super DIY. Like we had like a shitty sound system and we upgraded over a while and then started throwing parties like every week. So the radio, we were there for a while, and it's quite sad. I think that if we had stayed there, and there were amazing plans for that space, but gentrification in Cape Town, got kicked out with some luxury apartments, got lied to by the owners. essentially were waiting for things to be upgraded before they sold the building. And we got kicked out. And that was kind of a longer pause of the radio because we didn't have the space and we lost a bit of momentum and money. I think that for a long time, like me and Johan had been doing this for free. We were relying on a lot of volunteers, like hustling and like various ways just for ourselves to get by and pay rent individually by like consulting or, DJing where we could or selling like my records. But in the hope that like, this radio is going to kick off, like we're going to get someone who gets it. And luckily we did. Warren Talbot from Vans like saw what we're doing. Yeah, so Warren came through, and it was the first time that I'd ever actually worked with a brand. I guess that in like working, I've always been quite wary of it, just because the work that I've been doing, I've largely been doing, without any, without any influence. Which I guess, there's advantages, disadvantages to that. But Vans came in and just literally like, just keep doing what you're doing. Here's some money. Wow, this is insane. Like, we don't have to change anything. They were like, you can kind of put a logo at the bottom of your website if you want, but like, just go. Like, we want to support you. And we were able to pay for our subscriptions and pay people like small salaries. But with
how much are Mixcloud subscriptions, by the way? I was wondering about that. Like, I assume quite a bit because of, licensing and everything.
So,
and especially because you guys did lots, you did full days of programming.
Do you know what? I need to go back because at the moment we're on a free membership. They gave us like a free membership because we're involved in some Mixcloud project, which is still carrying on. So I'll get back to you. I need to go check it. So it's a while since I've seen the debit, but it's if I can remember, I think it's about 200, 300. The most expensive was the hosting. It's like hosting, like Airtime Pro and the broadcasting software and people. I mean, when you think that like broadcasting radio, people are there from 9 till 5 till later sometimes. And then outside of that, there's a lot of admin and communication to like, we had 120 hosts.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of, but people believed in it. It was we all started up at the same time as broadcasting with like Lily's and Hamshack and A11. There was such a beautiful time in the city during COVID, for me at least, that obviously health aside, but I brought a lot of the people who were doing music for the like sheer like passion and love for it together, because a lot of people who were working in music for money kind of stopped during COVID because they couldn't sell tickets. But other people were like launching shit. Like there were record labels launching and radio stations launching, and like with no clear plan of like how this is going to be profitable. And we were included in that. And I think we all kind of recognized each other. We're just like, yo, you still doing this? Okay, cool. Like you still about, like you haven't trailed off. You're actually working harder now. Okay, respect. And it brought a lot of, I guess like a sense of community around a lot of collectives that weren't really collaborating in the past or knew that each other were doing things. But I think that's kind of like made an impact in the city now. And also you're speaking to a very optimistic person. I think that what people know about me is that I see like, obviously there's a lot that I can complain about in Cape Town and in South Africa and in the world. Sure. And it's not that I'm not aware of that, but I think while I'm still working in music in like a very challenging area and alternative music in South Africa for like my whole life, is because I have a very positive and excited outlook on what's going on here.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think we're like, I think we're kindred spirits, except I'm the exact opposite. Like I've got like similar philosophies, similar like, like done similar things to you. I've put on festivals and gigs and stuff like that. But like I've just been worn down. Like, and especially doing stuff in Durban, I think is a little bit harder because in Cape Town, there's more people who are open to different shit. Whereas in Durban, it's a very, very small market that you're playing to that's always leaving to Cape Town once a year. So
I can understand that. And the thing is, look, even with Durban, whenever I think about like being upset that I'm not being able to see my favorite band or I can't make like the kind of cash that I could if I had a similar company in Europe. I always just think like, what is the most remote place that I could have been born in, and what kind of scene would they have? And then look around at Cape Town and think about a place even like Durban, being like, yo, it could be, things could always be worse. Like, I do have an audience and a podcast that you're putting out every couple of weeks that you have listenership for, and you can go and watch what's that band you like, Awema. Wow.
Poema, yeah.
However, you can get excited about a cool band that's in your city. For me, like, I always check in about how many festivals exist in South Africa that I can go to, and clubs that I can go to, and artists that I can connect with. And there's always things that I think I could love to see, and I'm really excited to go traveling soon so I can get that itch scratched. But yeah, I'm very, very fortunate and feel privileged that I live here. Anyway, enough Cape Town worship. What were we saying before that? Kind of looked out the window and looked at the mountain.
Well, we're talking just about like other radio and costs and everything like that.
Yes, okay. So anyway, then we left. The Vans money came in, and then that ran out, and we're kind of in a space of like, shit, we've got this thing, we want to keep going. How do we do this? And at that point, look, I have low moments as well. The radio like affected my health. Like, I have fibromyalgia, which is a stress-induced physical like pain flare up.
Because it's an immense fucking project, dude. Like, as you're saying, like 120 people. Like, I was impressed with like how you guys managed to handle things, because I had a show on there for a while, and like, I was genuinely like impressed with the communication and just like, how everything flowed so seamlessly from like, my side. I just had to send you the stuff in time, and like it was all sorted.
Yeah.
That was impressive.
Thanks for that. But it's all down to the team. I mean, we had amazing volunteers who, like, shout out to Radar, to Shiloh, to Gabby, to Ahmed. There's a long list, to Jahan, who all came through and just wanted to support, and without the interest of payment, which I always felt like weird about. But I guess that if I was, but then I reminded myself, if I was like 21, I would have loved to have been around the radio. Like, they were, getting to meet like all these different DJs and artists and hosts, and fill your time around creative spaces. Like, I didn't really have an equivalent of the other growing up. There wasn't like a music company that I thought of that was kind of similar to us. So that always made me feel a little bit okay. If they were keen, and I always checked,
bro.
Hey?
2 Ocean Radio.
But then, now that we had people that needed to get paid, and we had a long list of hosts that were itching to get shows out, it was a lot of pressure, and I needed a break. And it was a definite time away and rethinking of how we were going to relaunch and what we needed to do in order for it to be sustainable. And then, I got nudged to apply for the Valentine's True Music Fund. And at the same time, a guy called Paul, who's part of this running club, he came up to me and was like, listen, I've seen that you are outside of a space. Do you want to come in? We've got a studio space that we can share with. And then, applied for the fund. And I think in my mind, I'd only wanted to relaunch the radio if we had like 2 years or 3 years funding set. Like, the stress of fundraising, and then having 6 months, like that funds go out, and having to raise again, and having to announce that we're closing and opening, and communication to all the artists. And it's a massive responsibility pressure that, I still have, because we're kind of in a similar space at the moment. Anyway, but we were able to broadcast last year through the Valentine's Fund and through having the space. But that fund has run out. And that's why we, when people are listening to this, we're not on air at the moment, because we don't have the funds to come back.
Well, what are your plans for that? Like, subscription model or advertising or anything like that? What are you thinking?
So a subscription model, I think, is just such a risk, because we don't really have a culture of that in South Africa. And
but people
overseas, sure, but I think then we need like a massive marketing budget, because at the moment it's largely people from South Africa that are tuning in. And to reach those listeners overseas, we like need support to be able to, get into their eyes and ears.
I mean, I think you'll be a bit surprised though, because like, I mean, I just know for this podcast, I think most of the high level like patrons are expats, people who are in England, in Ireland, in Korea, in all these countries where they're making a bit more money. So, to them, a couple dollars a month is nothing compared to like in South Africa where, like even $10 a month, like that's, you could get Netflix essentially. And, or
100%.
you could support like this small thing. But I think there are people, it is about getting into the right spaces, I guess, and getting the right people hearing you.
Yeah, I think, look, the subscription thing, I think, will definitely be an addition to it. But if when we relaunch, or if like hopefully we do, I want to pay people properly, and we need a much bigger team, and that will add up. And I think that we are able. Like, I don't think it's impossible, but we at the moment we're essentially seeing if we can get a buy-in from people who can come and help run the station. And give the kind of support in areas that I'm maybe not the strongest in. I think that my role in the radio has largely been like the connecting people and the programming and finding artists. But like running a business and handling the admin of that and dealing with staff and marketing and social media and like all of that, it's not. I mean, I have to do that, but it's not what it's not the best suited for.
Trust me, dude, I relate there.
So I really want the radio to carry on, but it is also, it's something that needs to change form. Otherwise, the same thing's just going to happen again. If we don't have finances that are sustainable, then either we have to strip the radio back into something that can just rely on volunteers, or it needs a pretty significant financial injection for it to kind of operate in a way that we've looked at NTS and Dublab as like the benchmark, and in a way we obviously aren't on that level, but we're broadcasting like a shitload of shows and putting it out, and that I needed to have a way bigger team for it to operate on that kind of level. So it was a big lesson learned on like burnout and what you can expect from yourself and other people. But also like building things a little bit slower and not coming out the gates trying to build the end product too soon.
Yeah, like I kind of taking a similar approach with the Not Quite Right stuff, and that I've got these big long-term ideas of where things can go in that, but it is just about one step in front of the other, because I've done lots of things in the past where you lose quite a lot of money because you overshoot the mark a little bit. And once bitten, twice shy. But it's important. Obviously, I mean, that's the thing. It's important to learn from your mistakes. And it's like, there's no such thing as failure, only finding ways that don't work. And
bang on theme for the podcast. But I mean, one thing I've also learned, and I guess that I've been so lucky enough that I've been able to work in like music since I've left school. But the challenge is real. Like I have a record shop, which basically covers.
How did that start?
I think the record shop started off as a bit of a selfish reason of me wanting to build my record collection, and I was like, the way that I could do that
by being a distributor,
by being a distributor and getting wholesale prices on imported records. Because as a shop, you get discounted records that you can sell, and as a shop owner, that's like one of the perks. You get to get that at a decent rate. Quickly realized how difficult selling records is, but how important a space like that is, because like a reason why the radio came about and why I wanted to do that was largely what I saw in the record shop, of having a physical space where people were connecting. People were coming to the record shop not because they bought records, but it was a music-filled space where I'd seen record label owner and artist to meet there and go on to release something. And I was like, that's dope. That would be amazing to kind of flourish, and the radio kind of like took that to another space in Ghost. But the shop itself, like, I think largely I've only started to dig into the spaces of like DSPs, like Spotify and Apple Music and YouTube Music kind of recently. Like I've normally just dig for music across various, like I don't like getting told what to listen to, but I found now that there's ways to find like kind of corners of the DSPs, which I don't rely on, but anyway, it's become quite a recent thing for me. Whereas before, I love discovering music through digging physically. I think it's a really fun way to find music. I've discovered so much amazing artists because of that, and like in the weirdest places. So I love, the limitation of not relying on the internet, which still like it like scares me of how much, like I used to have a nightmare that I'd die before hearing my favorite song in the world, and then like relentlessly like scour the internet to like find my favorite song, like go through all these blogs and eventually like calm the fuck down and being like, it's fine, like you like music and you've heard good songs in your life.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think the way of discovering music through record shops, I love the physical space of people connecting and wanting to build my connection, but largely bringing in music into the city that I couldn't buy. That's kind of it. That was the main reason. I wanted to buy a record. I couldn't get the records I wanted from the shops that existed, and had actually pitched to one of the shops that I had become a buyer for their shop to import certain records, and I gave a list. And I was like, what about, why don't you bring these records in? If they sell, I could get a commission. I could kind of become like a curator for your shop. That didn't end up happening. So then I just decided to open a shop. And casual. Yeah, it was pretty casual in the beginning. I mean, similar to the radio station being a podcast, I opened a record shop, which is literally a stand in my ex-girlfriend's vintage shop. And people would rock up to the record shop, which was literally like, just the stand, a beautiful stand, but it was a stand. And that was when I was still at managing. I was still at Black Major, but the record shop was something exciting. And I was like, wow, this is like something that I've created. It has a brand. People are coming and they're buying it. And I actually left left Black Major, like a very comfortable salary, working with like some of my favorite artists, and had left there to go and like go full time into records. Which I like painfully learned was financially like a very silly thing to do, and had to hustle on like various things to get by. But it was incredible. Like I was meeting all these new people in music who were record collectors. And, I think the main thing with the shop is that there's no bullshit there. People are coming in to buy music. And as a shop owner, you have to know music. There's no brands involved. There's no deals. There's no like campaigns. There's like no bullshit. You coming in, and I was like, I love this. This is such a great exchange.
Rex Manning Day.
No, fuck. There's nothing. Like people are so honest. And eventually it kind of grew, and we started getting more interesting records, and we started building like a really great thing around Sundays. It was in OBS, opposite a bottle store. So we were throwing these events called Some Sundays, and became a vibe. Like the shop was probably one of the smallest shop when the first one, we've moved to One Park now, but the first one, it's probably, I could say, like in the top 5 smallest record shops in Africa. But it was what is that line? It was a small shop with a big vibe or something.
Yeah, I need to take you to some shops here in Durban City. There's some tiny record stores.
I really want to go to the one in Ashbury Arcade.
Yeah. That's literally what I was thinking of. I've gotten some dope fucking records from there, but like like West African dance and like
wow. So I've like a deep love for Indian music. Like it's probably the biggest.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of
genre.
That there.
Yeah, it's the biggest genre in my record collection. Like I've like traveled to India to buy records. I buy it wherever I can. So it's been like, I really want to come to Durban to come for Diwali and to come and shop for records. So I'll hit you up when I come.
I'll see you later this year then.
Yeah. But so records, I think, we were able to, I was able to make like a bit of money on it in the beginning, personally, because I was the one working the shop, and I was dating someone, Sarah, who runs Better Half, which is a vintage shop in Cape Town. It was the perfect partner to travel around the country with, because she was looking for records. I mean, she was looking for furniture and clothing, and I was looking for records, and largely they're in the same space.
Yeah.
So the two of us she had a caddy, would just mission around the country together, and I'd be sourcing records and sometimes finding like fucking sealed Brenda Fassie records and digging. And I was like, whoa, this is actually a way to like make an income. People would meet me and be like, yo, what are you doing after Black Major? You run the shop, like, how are you getting by? And being like, I'm actually like on my own, like sourcing records that I'm like making enough to live on and selling. So that was a vibe for a while until COVID hit, which actually launched the shop into a whole new space, because shortly before COVID, Tor Rixon, who I lived with at the time, we lived in a
Shout
place
out
called
to
Camp
Tor.
Street. Shout out to Tor. I lived in a place called Camp Street, which is kind of like a cultural institution in Cape Town.
Yeah,
It used to be the African Dope Studios, Alice Phoebe Lou. I lived at the same time as Dave Thorpe, Alice Phoebe Lou, Mucky,
Holy
Helen Wells,
fuck.
and Tor Rixon. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, half those people have made music together, but yeah, fuck, like that's a cool collection, and half
that
those
was an amazing.
quite a few of those people have been on the podcast, but yeah,
Yeah,
I'm still trying to get Alice, but yeah.
Yeah, it was an incredible time to be alive, but also quite a painful Saturday afternoon with a hangover when everyone's finding their voice and through band rehearsals at the same time through my wooden floors. But I couldn't complain. I was a manager. I was just like, okay, let's just stick it out, and they all ended up being like some of my favorite artists. I mean, I lived literally next door to Alice, and we had a thin wall. And she, like, being able to fall asleep to her, like, writing songs was a massive treat. In that house that had 3 crates of library records. Library records are like these records that were used for like adverts and soundtracks and documentaries and movies that you didn't have a license for, but became quite a rare thing in music and record collecting because they weren't available to the public. And the music itself was very adventurous. It was like, especially the ones like kind of mid-70s Italian and early 80s space and deep sea library records were kind of experimenting what synthesizers could do. So really cool and limited. And because we have a massive ad industry in Cape Town, there's quite a bit of it here. Ended up having 2 crates of that under the staircase in my house that I was living in for all the years without knowing that it was there. Tor rocks up at the record shop before COVID, and he was like, yo, Aaron, do you want these? We have to move. I'm moving out of Camp Street. Like, everyone had to leave. He was like, we've cleared out. You can take this to the shop. I've known of library records. I knew that they were kind of like worth something, but I had never thought that people were going to buy them in South Africa. So he asked him how much he wanted. He gave me a price. I doubled what he wanted because I knew that it could be worth a lot. And it's sat in the shop, put it up on the shelves, went on Discogs, saw that there were Discogs, like an online record store to gauge prices of records and to sell them. And I checked out that these records were like, some of them were pretty decently priced, put them on the shelf, and they sat there for like 7 months. No one bought them. We didn't have a market for them. When COVID came, we quickly realized that we actually built 3 websites during COVID, but one of them being the record shop because we needed to make cash. I was like, we have to go to an online store. We need to go on Discogs. Like, what are we going to do for money? We work in music. This is like, how long is COVID going to last? And eventually got a website and got all the stock online. Woke up the next day with loads of orders from like Japan and UK and the States, all library record buyers. And those 2 or 3 crates literally were the reason that the record shop was able to stay open during COVID. For like the first few weeks where we were just shipping out constantly records that were lucky enough, like shout out to Tor and Warwick Sony, who I found out from Kalahari Surfers, that was his library records that he had left at Camp Street and found out recently was his. So it was a really cool moment in the shop. Recently, I've gotten, if anyone doesn't know Warwick Sony, like check out Kalahari Surfers, like political South African like artists that have come out still and very underappreciated, and loads of insane music online. So yeah, he was in the shop. We started talking about it, and anyway, that was a cool moment for him to know he was standing in the store that wouldn't have existed if he didn't leave them under that statement.
That's fucking cool, man. Then how did that lead to One Park, by the way? Because I assume that's the end result of everything.
Yeah, One Park. Yeah, let's go there. So the shop, being an obs, was awesome because of the vibe, but it's
changed.
It's not that it's changed. It's a little bit. It's difficult to get to during peak time traffic because our shop was open from 10 till 6.
Okay.
Most of the people that had money to buy records all had day jobs, so getting there between 5 and 6 was really tough for them. We largely only made our income on Saturdays or on Mondays when some of the hospitality kind of people had their off day. Sure. So during the week, we weren't really selling enough for it to be profitable, or not profitable, but to be profitable. And I knew that we needed to be in town. It was actually someone from Matt from Max Bagels. When I chatted about the shop, he was like, "Yeah, when everyone thinks about stores and retail spaces, it's always location, location, location. For you, it's like the location was like number 13 on the list or something." And I was like, "Whoa, is that the case?" And he was like, "Yeah, you should be in town. Like that is where you're going to make more money. You're going to have a way bigger flow of traffic, and tourists are around here, and you could probably stay open later." Which has always been the thing for the shop for me. I'd checked out some of the stores that I loved overseas, and like especially when I was in Thailand, I was going to a lot of nighttime retail spaces. Like places would open at 4 o'clock and close at 11, and I was like, this is awesome. Like I can go like shopping for cool things at night. Apart from shopping malls, we don't really have like a culture of that.
No.
So it made a lot of sense for a record shop to do that, because most of my customers were working 9 to 5s, and like going out instead of going to a bar or going to a restaurant, like spending an evening record browsing is like my dream. So I was like, cool, hopefully people are going to kick it with this, but we need to find a space in town. We couldn't do that in OBS. OBS, it's not like super dangerous area, but I wouldn't feel like safe with staff and myself being there till 9 at night, especially in winter, like when it gets dark early. And yeah, my friend Matt, like he was working at Yours Truly, programming, booking like 70 artists or more a month. When COVID struck, obviously Yours Truly also stopped, and he had decided that it was time for him to go. And him and Mishka Mohammed, who's one of the owners of One Park, they decided to launch a space called One Park, which was largely a space centered around music and food, a listening bar and a restaurant. And it's a really big building, beautiful old building in the center of town, just off Clove Street. And I had known that he had planned to open the space and what was in the space, but being there, saw that there was a potential space. And I'd thought of moving the shop to Sea Point. I thought that like next to a petrol station, that's where we could be like open super late. But went for a walk with Matt in the forest, and I was like, "Yo, what about moving the shop to One Park? We've got like customers that come to the store anyway. If there's a listening bar upstairs, that makes a lot of sense for having a record shop downstairs. Yeah. I think that we'll be able to be open at night. What do you think?" And he loved the idea, and yeah, I mean, the shop is such a change from the first one. They like I can't believe that the store is the store, to be honest, because all we did was bring the records in and they kitted out the rest of the space. So it's literally a dream shop.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
And now we open at night. We're open till like 9 p.m. at night. And I think there's certain elements from the old shop that haven't been introduced to it yet. So yeah, moving forward this year, we're going to start throwing more in stores and like braais outside and make the shop more of a vibe. But yeah, when people go to the restaurant, they go upstairs, get a drink, come down, browse. Some like couples end up going into arguments because one of them is in the shop for too long and the food's getting cold. And anyway, it's quite funny. But yeah, that's where the shop is now, One Park Road. Yeah, just off Cliff Street. And yeah, a cool thing to do in that space. You can come there for dinner, go browse, then go upstairs for music every Thursday, Wednesday to Saturday. And it's been so cool being able to. Me and Matt have kind of been working on projects before, but yeah, I mean, we've kicked it since we were 13. And we had this thing when we were like the story we would tell each other when we were younger on the playground that we'd one day like work in a place called The House, which would have retail music and food. And this is an actual house. And yeah, I mean, I've helped him on the programming and have the shop. He does everything else. But the fact that we kind of gather in the space with like a bunch of friends every week has been, it's been amazing.
It's like, bro, yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've just like kept at it to manage to make everything work. Because yeah, moving from Black Major, I think turned out to be a pretty good move in the long run.
It kind of, look, I mean, financially speaking, I'm working on too many things and making too little money. It's especially with the festival, like losing money this year. It's put me in a really heavy financial situation, which I have been in for a long time. There was definitely moments that I look back on Black Major and been like, wow, things were so cushy. And, it would have been a lot easier. So I've actually got plans to seeing how I can relocate overseas, at least for a big portion of the year, to be overseas from like March to November and work on projects and in companies that actually are in alternative music that have funds for it, because as cool as all of this journey has been, and I've learned so much and connected so many people, ultimately, like, I'm like, if I can't sustain myself in it and other people, then it has to stop. And search is always something that will keep me coming back. But yeah, the kind of plan now, I'm going to Europe in March and April. I'm going to be April and May, going to be connecting with a bunch of people and seeing what options there are for me to work that side and not lose touch of the South African industry, because what I'm aiming to do next is kind of be around that side and maybe joining an agency and bringing South African artists that I love onto their books and help South African artists tour overseas.
I mean, that sounds
so
dope.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to travel more and being a help in getting more money into artists' pockets. I mean, we don't really have a touring scene here, especially if you're more an experimental artist. It's so limited, the shows that you can play, and the people that have been able to go over and tour and make a career out of that, like Tor and Alexander Alien and Design Maria, and before, like Spock Matambo and Yannick, and there's a smaller list of artists that have built a career overseas who weren't able to do that here. Beatenberg, and it's unfortunate, but BCUC, exactly, soon to be Kajenga. And yeah, I mean, it's an unfortunate gap that we have here, that you can't, DJ Lag, like, that you can't, sorry, stop dropping names now, but that you can't sustain yourself in spaces here, which will hopefully change down the line. I mean, there was that like Agoda festival circuit that happened for a while that was really cool to see, the first circuit between Arena and Ireland, and I think there was one in Durban and Joburg, Sakifo, exactly.
But I worked on that quite a lot.
Yeah, that was, I can remember. But we don't really have that anymore. So if artists want to, do music as a career, that's definitely a step. But people overseas are booking the same artists because there's not a real access point to the more alternative artists who might not have like, the best online presence or bio or pick,
and
or
also our media
links.
is just like not
exactly.
As good
there's
as
no
it
music
used to be.
Journalism.
Yeah.
I mean, music journalism, like, that's what we're trying to like helpful avoid with the radio to a degree. But yeah, I mean, if you're trying to discover South African artists,
I'm sure you've had the same problem I've had.
Yeah, you really need to know either who to speak to, or like you need to be going out, because it's not really existing online. And there's so many artists that should be touring that aren't, and so many artists that are currently touring all around Europe, from Europe, playing South African music that shouldn't be. So yeah, that's kind of the plan. Like we're always wanting to work with South African music and artists and search, but I think that it's time I feel ready to kind of head to a different space and be around different people and work without like the constant financial stress of trying to keep these things afloat.
Yeah, I mean, I fully relate there. Like, I don't know what my plan is. Like, I've got a long-term plan because like for me, comedy is like the main thing I really want to be good at and see how far I can actually take it. And I know like that is a struggle here, no matter what. But like the thing that like I always just try to remind myself, like with the monetary struggles and all of that, it's like I'm doing everything I want to do. Like maybe not at the scale, maybe not at the level I want to do it. But at the end of the day, I get to do this. I get to, work every day. I get to wake up and work on jokes. Like that's a great fucking laugh. So, but there is more that I want. And like the financial aspect is why I'm also looking at something like going to England or whatever. But I also think it's just a smart step for you because fuck Cape Town winters, man. Like I would not live there in winter.
To be honest, that's kind of where we differ. I'm quite a melancholic person, so I quite like the winter. I like rain, so I'm gonna have to try and get a bit of that in before I go. But yeah, I mean, chasing the summer is what a lot of people that I've seen have done between Cape Town and Europe. I mean, I'm on a South African passport, so it is going to be a bit of a journey to get to a point that I'm able to work on projects that side. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna go there and meet some people and hope for the best. And if I can make that work, then that'll be awesome. I think I'm going to. But yeah, I mean, look, in terms of what you're doing, I completely like relate to that. In like the hardest days, being able to go to the radio station and seeing, people contribute to something that you've worked on. I'm sure for you, I mean, I'm so impressed with like your podcast and how much you put into this on your own, and the amount of shows you've had and the guests you've had and the questions and research and everything. It's amazing. So yeah, you should be proud of yourself, Bob. It's like something super important that exists in South Africa at the moment. And I've learned so much from, people that I've known, like Matt Reinford. I've like chat to every time I see him. I'm like, think of something that I heard about him on the podcast. Like, and Tato, like Rose, like people that I've known, like this, it's an amazing opportunity to dig deeper in these kind of conversations, because we don't have, interviews anymore on music blogs. Yeah, you creating a platform that is super important, or have created a platform.
Well, thanks, bro. Like, yeah, I appreciate that. And that is because of it was also just because I mean, I love written interviews. I love writing them. I love, the whole vibe of it. But I always felt like there was, an hour of content missing out, and, you're putting 5 minutes of the interview in, like, for written stuff. So that's why I was always like, I love the podcasting format, because like you get to chat to someone like you, like, and really understand how things came about. Same thing with Spook, same thing with guys like Matt and that you just can't necessarily even get in other mediums. And so personally, I've always had a passion for putting people onto things that I think are cool, and it's kind of all it's ever been.
Amazing. Yeah, thanks. That is like a podcast. I mean, I would have been overthinking my questions if they were written down. So that's a lot.
I just write down topics. Like, that's it. So I've got a list here in front of me that says searched other one park, and then that's basically all I had for you. And obviously stuff comes up.
We're done.
Pretty much, yeah. Do want to actually bring us to a close here, and you know how it ends because you've listened to a few of these. What is a big mistake that you've learned an important lesson from?
I should have prepared for this question. The biggest mistake that I've made, I think it's being more money conscious. I think as like pure and like fun as it is to go into things for pure passion, ultimately what I've worked on has impacted and affected and worked with like a lot of people. And with certain things closing and starting, definitely felt a weight of responsibility and pressure. I know that certain people, they put their heart and soul into, I'm specifically talking about the radio, but that does relate to other things that I've worked on. So I think just being more conscious of how things are financially going to work as a bigger pillar in the scheme of things.
Fair enough. Cool. I know you're going to be heading on a meditation treat soon, but
I am. Shout out to Tor Rickson for pushing me to do that. I'm going to Vipassana for 10 days next week.
And then after that, where can people like hang with you? Where can people find you? What's got going on?
After that, I will be in. I'm largely around One Park. Let's see what happens with the radio. Hopefully, in the next few weeks, we'll have a clear idea of when that's launching. So we'll be around the studio, be around One Park, where the record shop and listening bars, and then at the end of March, then I'm off to Europe to a couple of spaces, and then coming back, I want to spend some time in Joburg, and then we'll see where it goes. This start to this year is I haven't felt more excited about uncertainty before. So I guess people will see me where they see me.
Cool. Sweet, bro.
Thank you so much, Bob. Really enjoyed the chat.
Well, thank you. So that was Aaron. Man, go if you're in Cape Town, head to One Park, go say what up, go buy some records, go enjoy the listening bar. And I'm gonna try and make it to Search at the end of this year if the finances allow for that. Because heading down to Cape Town over New Year's is not cheap, but it's definitely, I think, an experience that's worth it, because I've seen those lineups and I'm like, damn, that is definitely the way I want to be spending New Year's. So we'll see what we can make happen. Speaking of making things happen, I've actually booked the Bioscope for the 30th of March. So if you're in Joburg on the 30th of March, I would love it if you come out. It looks like we're going to be doing a Durban invasion with the Not Quite Right crew. Basically, what's happening is I'm going up over Easter weekend anyway to visit my family. And I'm kind of over, asking other people if I can always just jump on here, jump on there. And then I get, it's dope. But, I only get to do 5 fucking minutes. I don't get paid for it. I don't get put on the bill. And at this point in my career, I'm kind of tired of that. So I was like, I hit up Mojack actually. I was like, yo, what venues should I try and, hit up? And he suggested the Bioscope, which I thought might be out of my range, to be completely honest with you. It's such a fucking dope venue. But I emailed them. Turns out it's Russell Grant from Short Straw, who I've known for years, who's the guy behind the bookings and everything there. So we chatted a little bit. He let me know the costs and everything, and I was like, damn, that's fucking reasonable. It is hella reasonable. It is hella affordable. I think it's doable. And we basically need to sell about 50 tickets, and everything should work out pretty smoothly. So I'll let you know when those tickets go on sale. I'll let you know what the lineup is. But yeah, I just tuned the Not Quite Right group. I was like, I'm thinking of booking the Bioscope over the weekend. Because I figured, hey man, if they can come up, fucking A, we can make something dope happen. If not, I can chat to Axel and Joburg and we can still put on a dope show. But it does look like at the moment we're going to have the whole Not Quite Right crew coming up. And we'll probably have a couple Durbanites up in Joburg join the bill as well. We're going to do a whole Durban invasion thing. So yeah, 30th of March, save that date. Also, 21st of February is my birthday and I'm going to be hosting at Ace's Pizza. It's a Wednesday, so that should be quite fun. I'm assuming it's just going to turn into a roast of me. Whenever I host, it basically is the roast of me anyway, because I always love taking jabs, but I don't mind it because I just afterwards I'm like, that's a good joke, can I have it? My current opening joke that I mostly use at the moment is a roast that Akil Maharaj made about me. And that is the last member of the Not Quite Right crew who we're going to be getting on this podcast pretty soon, probably in the next couple weeks. He's fucking hilarious. And yeah, I'm keen to see what he comes up with for my birthday so that I can add that to my set. But yeah, that should be a really fun night and it'll be cool to see some of you there. So if you're in Durban on the 21st of February, please come through to Ace's Pizza. And if you're looking for Valentine's Day, that's a little out of the norm, hey, the 14th of February is also Wednesday, so hopefully we'll check you there. It should be hosted by an ex-guest of this podcast, someone who hasn't been in Durban for a while, but someone who, I basically started out doing comedy with, and hopefully we can get him for the 14th. If not, I think he'll be doing the 7th, so I'm not going to mention the name just yet. There's also a new venue opening up literally just down the road from me here on Helen Joseph Road called The Mac. It's done by the Friends of South African Comedy crew, Mangaliso Mhlongo and Vincent Joseph, who you've heard on this podcast. He's going to have a studio there. I went and checked out the spot yesterday and it's still they're trying to be open by next week Thursday, and they've got a lot of work to do, but it's a dope space that I think could actually be really cool and turn into something great for Durban comedy. So that's something to check out. Look for the Mac031 on Instagram. I'm not being paid or anything to say this. I'm hoping as time goes on, things here can build, because we've had quite a few new comedians come and join us at the open mic, and we just need more stages in Durban all over the show. And hopefully, as time goes on, we can develop the scene into a force to be reckoned with. Because even at the Newcomers Showcase this year, I think Vinny was the only Durbanite who was up there. And I've heard the Cape Town crew killed it. But that makes sense, because the Cape Town scene at the moment seems to be the strongest comedy scene in the country. like Joburg's definitely lost some of its shine, and Cape Town with its constant gigs all over the show, and like there's a lot of camaraderie there. I mean, from you would have heard like in the Ambrose chats and with various chats that I've had with Cape Town comedians, it definitely seems like at the moment they've got a cool vibe going on. So hopefully we can, catch that slipstream and take some notes and try and implement them here, and hopefully the scene can grow into, like I say, a force to be reckoned with. Other than that, today is a pretty big day for the ICJ. We're gonna see if Western countries do right by justice or just follow the politics of their countries. And I don't have that much faith, I don't have that much hope, to be completely honest with you, that this is going to lead to anything substantial. But we'll see by the end of the day, I guess, just what conclusions they come to. It is fucked up that, the global south, I guess, as it's called, can all see with clear eyes that Israel are committing genocide. Yet you have countries like Germany and the USA saying, nah, that's baseless. That's what evidence do you have for this? That's completely out of pocket. They've only destroyed like every hospital in fucking Gaza. That's all. They've been bombing fucking schools. They've been killing fucking civilians indiscriminately. They've been posting about it on their own fucking social media accounts. You've had the prime minister, you've had many politicians all call for genocide, literally calling for the extermination of the Palestinian fucking people. But no, there's no evidence. And it goes to show you just how much the Western media and Western journalism is a fucking sham. They're essentially just a mouthpiece for imperialism, and they have been very active in hiding a lot of stuff that we see for ourselves on social media. Like, we've been able to have access at this point, thankfully, compared to previous times. Israel's bombed the fuck out of Palestinians and murdered Palestinians just all willy fucking nilly. At least this time we rarely get to see stuff on the ground from people who are experiencing true fucking horror, and that's one of the saving graces. But it doesn't seem to stop anything, because we've got Israel's a very useful tool for the West, and as long as that's true, oh man, I don't know. I don't have much hope in anything good happening anytime fucking soon. Hopefully I'm wrong though. Hopefully I'm wrong and some good comes out of this ICJ case. But we'll see. So with that, I guess it is time to give the shout outs. At the end of every episode of the podcast, I shout out the titular titles tier over at patreon.com/almostperfect. Now this is the top tier, it's $10 tier, and you get to pick your title right here on the Almost Perfect podcast. So shout outs to Rousseau, the storage clerk of subtle heresies in the Lesser Overberg region, Russell Grant, the Far East correspondent, different Russell Grant to the Bioscope. This is Russell Grant, who's now in China and one of my oldest friends. Shout outs to Neil Green, the key grip, Kron Chetty, the assistant to the regional manager, Kat Jenkin, the inevitable ruler of the universe, and Queen Swifty, and the executive producer, Stephen Olivier. Of course, I need to thank Damien Root for the bed music you hear underneath me, and the banging intro you hear at the beginning of each and every single episode. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, shoutouts to you for listening all the way through to the end. I will catch you on the flip side.